not a fairy tale of glass slippers and magic balls. This is the story of guilt, regret, and redemption. A haunting reminder that those who cause pain today may find themselves broken by tomorrow. After the ball, the sound of wedding bells faded, and Cinderella rode off in a golden carriage with the prince, leaving behind the cold walls of the house where she had suffered for years. Her stepmother, Lady Tremaine, and her two daughters, Drizella and Anastasia, stood at the balcony window, watching with jealousy burning in their eyes. They thought they could still use Cinderella's new status to climb the social ladder. But when they tried to speak to the palace guards or send letters to the princess, they were ignored. News of their cruelty had spread. The people in the kingdom whispered, laughed, and pointed at them wherever they went. Their shame followed them like a dark shadow. Their plan to live in glory was slipping away. Lady Tremaine clenched her jaw. "We'll find another way," she said. But deep down, a small fear started to grow inside her, a fear she could not admit. The pride that once gave her confidence was now the very weight dragging her down. The girls paced the halls, frustrated. "She should be thanking us for raising her," Drizella hissed. "We gave her a roof over her head." But neither could forget the silent, obedient figure who had cleaned their messes and suffered their cruelty. That same girl now sat beside the prince, while they were left to rot in their fading luxury. That night, as Cinderella danced with the prince under golden lights, the women who tormented her sat in silence. Their hearts were filled not only with envy, but a growing unease. They didn't know it yet, but their golden days were over, and the real story had just begun. The fall from favor. Lady Tremaine still believed she could win favor in noble society. With her best gowns and painted face, she attended events uninvited, forcing smiles and acting as though nothing had changed. But things had changed. Doors were closed in her face. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Servants at the palace remembered her cruelty. The nobility had no interest in associating with someone who had treated the future princess like a servant. Even those who once praised her sophistication now rolled their eyes or turned away in disgust. Drizella tried to charm the sons of wealthy merchants, but they pulled their hands away and offered only cold glances. Anastasia wrote long, desperate letters to potential suitors, but received no replies. Their reputation had become a warning. Mothers whispered to their daughters, "Stay away from them, they are cruel and cursed." The once lively estate grew quiet. Servants began to leave. The garden wilted. The smell of fresh bread no longer filled the halls. The silence was thick, almost suffocating. Lady Tremaine sat in her parlor, gripping her teacup until her fingers ached. "They will see reason," she muttered. But reason was no longer on her side. The kingdom had changed, and they were left behind, standing on the crumbling remains of their pride. The curse of arrogance. Despite the rejections, Lady Tremaine clung to her pride. She continued to wear jewels and silks, though the hems were fraying. She still held tea parties, though only silence and dust joined her. "One good marriage," she insisted, "and we will rise again." Drizella tried to laugh off their misfortune, but her voice cracked. Anastasia cried more often, hiding in her room. The pantry shelves grew emptier. First the servants were let go. Then the horses. Then the silver. "We must hold on to appearances," Lady Tremaine would say. But appearances meant nothing when bellies were empty. They began selling their furniture, first quietly, then desperately. The villagers, once wary, now chuckled when they passed. "The mighty have fallen," one baker whispered as they stumbled by, faces pale and clothes worn. Tension grew in the house. The sisters bickered over food, over space, over blame. Drizella screamed, "This is all Cinderella's fault," and threw a plate that shattered against the wall. Anastasia didn't respond. For the first time, she wasn't sure Drizella was right. Hunger and humiliation. The once grand home became dark and dusty. Rain leaked through the roof where no one had the money or means to patch it. Their shoes were worn thin, and their once beautiful dresses hung loose from their shrinking frames. Hunger crept in slowly, like a thief in the night, robbing them of strength, beauty, and hope. Lady Tremaine's hands, once adorned with rings, now trembled as she tried to slice stale bread. The girls fought over scraps. Their lips were dry and cracked. Their eyes, once full of mischief and judgment, now looked hollow and tired. They begged in secret, hiding their faces behind hoods. Drizella once tried to trade a hairpin for a loaf of bread, only to be laughed at. "Didn't you used to mock us?" the shopkeeper said. "Now look at you." The villagers, once afraid of their sharp tongues, now mocked them openly. Their fall from grace became the favorite tale of the marketplace. "That's what happens to those who mistreat the kind-hearted," people whispered. Shame weighed heavier than hunger. Lady Tremaine stopped going into town. Anastasia wept at night, curled beneath a threadbare sheet. Drizella tried to stay angry. Anger kept her from thinking too deeply, but even she could feel the cracks forming in her spirit. They were alone. And worse, they were forgotten. Cinderella had not come, and no one else would. All they had now were memories of power, and the bitter taste of humiliation. The letters that never came. Lady Tremaine stared at the front door each morning, her heart hoping for something, anything. A letter, an invitation, a royal decree forgiving them. But the mailbox stayed empty. The air turned colder. Her bones ached more each day, and the silence of the house pressed down on her. Drizella took to writing letters to distant relatives, hoping someone might take pity. She lied in them, painting themselves as victims of political change or palace corruption. But no replies came. No help arrived. Anastasia, quieter now, began visiting the edge of the woods. She said nothing of what she did there, but her absence unsettled Lady Tremaine. Don't wander off, she warned her one evening. It's dangerous to look desperate. But desperation had already taken root in their hearts. One day, Drizella came home with a bruised cheek and a torn dress. They laughed at me, she said, voice trembling. I begged for work, real work. They spat at me. Lady Tremaine's eyes flickered with something. Shame? Remorse? We are not beggars, she whispered, but her voice lacked power. The truth had become undeniable. No one was coming. The letters were dead ends. The world had closed its door. All that remained was what they had tried to ignore, the consequences of their cruelty. As the last candle flickered out, Lady Tremaine gathered her daughters close. For the first time in years, they did not speak as nobles, nor as schemers. They spoke as a family fallen from grace, clutching the bitter silence where apologies might have lived. A visit to the palace. Winter crept in, chilling the broken windows of the once proud estate. Lady Tremaine, desperate and thin, finally made a decision she swore she never would. She would go to the palace. Wearing her best, though faded, gown, she marched up the long marble steps, each one heavier than the last. The guards recognized her. Their expressions were cold. I demand an audience, she said. With whom? One asked flatly. With Cinderella, my daughter. The silence that followed felt like a slap. Her Royal Highness does not entertain those from her past, the guard finally said. Especially not uninvited. She owes us. Lady Tremaine snapped. We raised her. Some would say you ruined her, the second guard replied, unmoved. Now leave. They closed the gates, slowly, deliberately. The sound echoed like a verdict. She stood there for minutes after, too proud to cry in public, too broken to turn away. When she finally walked back home, the sky had darkened. Her daughters waited with wide eyes, hopeful. She would not see me, Lady Tremaine admitted, her voice like a whisper in the wind. We are truly alone now. Anastasia broke down sobbing. Drizella simply walked away in silence. That night, they didn't speak. Their stomachs growled, and the wind howled through the broken glass. The last thread of hope had snapped. The stranger in the woods. Weeks passed. One evening, Anastasia didn't return home until well after dark. Her hair was damp, her eyes wide with fear. Or was it wonder? Where were you? Drizella demanded. I met someone, Anastasia whispered. In the woods. Lady Tremaine narrowed her eyes. Who? A woman. An old one. She said she could help us. But there is a price. Magic. Lady Tremaine hissed. We do not make deals with witches. But what if it's our only way out? Anastasia cried. She says she can undo what's been done. Turn fate back. Fate doesn't need turning. We need dignity, Lady Tremaine snapped. But inside, fear and curiosity tangled together. Drizella, however, was intrigued. What does she want in return? She said we have already paid. Anastasia replied cryptically. That night, the air in the house shifted. Whispers seemed to travel through the walls. Shadows moved where there was no light. Lady Tremaine sat awake until dawn, her hands clenched. For the first time in her life, she was afraid of what her daughters might do next. A taste of madness. The following days felt strange. Food appeared on the table, fresh bread, warm soup. Lady Tremaine questioned it, but the girls said nothing. Anastasia smiled more. Drizella laughed again. The cracks in their spirits began to mend, but the change wasn't natural. Their eyes glimmered in the dark. They spoke in whispers and riddles. One night, Lady Tremaine heard singing from the forest. She followed the sound and saw them dancing in a circle of blue fire, hands joined with the old woman Anastasia spoke of. "What have you done?" she screamed. The woman turned. Her eyes were black as night. "They asked for help. I delivered." "You're cursing them," Lady Tremaine cried. "No, you cursed them long ago. This is the consequence." From that night on, the house groaned as if alive. Mirrors cracked when Lady Tremaine looked into them. Her reflection seemed older, meaner, haunted. She tried to stop the girls from returning to the woods, but they slipped away like shadows. The more they visited, the more she faded. Her voice lost strength. Her fingers trembled. Her mind swirled with guilt. She saw Cinderella in dreams, smiling, glowing, forgiving. And it broke her. The mirror's truth. On the final night of the winter solstice, the house stood eerily quiet. Snow blanketed the world outside. Inside, Lady Tremaine wandered, a candle shaking in her hand. She passed by the grand mirror, the one she couldn't bear to sell. It shimmered, called to her. As she stared, the glass swirled and revealed her memories, not the ones she told herself, but the truth. She saw Cinderella scrubbing floors while they laughed. She heard her own voice saying cruel things. She saw fear in the girl's eyes, hope crushed, dreams mocked. Then, the image changed. Cinderella was in the palace, radiant, happy, kind. "You were the villain," the mirror whispered. Lady Tremaine fell to her knees. "I didn't mean to," she sobbed. "I only wanted control, security. Your fear became your cruelty," the mirror replied. "And now you are left with the ashes of your deeds." The candle dropped. The flame flickered and died. She sat in the cold, staring into the mirror, whispering apologies that no one heard. Redemption or ruin. Spring came. The woods turned green again. But the house remained cold, quiet. Anastasia and Drizella returned home one day, different, tired, their eyes clear. "We stopped seeing her," Anastasia said softly. Drizella nodded. "She fed on our pain. We've had enough." Lady Tremaine was now but a shadow of the woman she once was. Thin, weak, quiet. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I see it now. What I did. What I became." The girls sat with her. They didn't hug, but they stayed. Time passed. Slowly, they cleaned the house, planted a small garden, learned to cook simple meals. They worked, honest work. One day, a letter arrived. It was not from Cinderella. It was from the village mayor's office. A position had opened at the school for a helper. A fresh start. Lady Tremaine looked at her daughters. "We can begin again. Not as nobles, not as rulers, but as people. Broken, maybe, but healing." And somewhere in the palace, Cinderella stood on her balcony and looked out at the village, her heart full of quiet hope for the women who had once broken her. Because even in fairy tales, some lessons are learned not in balls or banquets, but in silence, in sorrow, and in the chance to choose better. The end.